Good evening. My name is Hunter Shukart, and today I'm going to be talking about what is sea level rise and what are the consequences of it. This is for my Physical Geography 101 presentation. Today we will talk about how sea levels rise. We are also going to talk about how the rise is connected to climate change, and we are also going to see how sea levels rise. How sea level rising is one of the most visible indicators of a warming planet. So we got to ask ourselves a question: who is this going to affect? Well, higher temperatures are going to be bad for the fish and for us. One reason, or one example that I can give, is last year in Panama, they usually expect a current to come through, and they actually think because of warming in the waters that the cooling current did not come through. And when this cooling current does not go through, it does not give the fish a more viable place to losing a train of thought here, basically to lay their eggs and to create more fish. This had a very negative impact on the local fishing environment in Panama, and has actually put a lot of fishermen in tough waters for this past year. Also, how this affects us is fish is a very viable food source for many people around the world. I know here in the United States, we can just go to a grocery store, but there are so many countries, they rely on going out to the ocean or to the lake to go catch fish. And if fish are not able to have an environment conducive to repopulate, they're just not going to have a way of life and a way to eat anymore. This is also going to affect our Arctic animals. The polar ice is melting at an alarmingly fast rate. And also with this polar ice melting, our rising sea levels are a result of that. And it's an unstoppable threat. There's really nothing that we can do about it. The only thing that we can do is we can try to slow it down. And one way that we can slow it down is by reducing our carbon footprint. Because of our carbon footprint, the acidification of the ocean is taking leaps and bounds, unfortunately, and that is fast forwarding the speed of how fast the ocean is warming, which is causing those icebergs to melt. Warming oceans alter the currents. This kind of goes back to when I was talking about the fishing population in Panama. I never knew before this that the warming weather could change the current in the ocean. Climate change is also affecting the chemistry of seawater. The same burning of fossil fuels that increases greenhouse gases in the level of atmosphere is also altering the chemical composition of seawater by making it more acidic. The ocean absorbs 30% of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and all that carbon dioxide dissolves into the water. In class, we talk about how gases can turn into liquids, and unfortunately that carbon dioxide gets absorbed by the ocean and traps that heat in. So how can we prepare and how can we respond to this? So while something like a hurricane could completely destroy Florida, Texas, Louisiana, the most notable hurricane that I've been alive for, I would say, is Hurricane Katrina. We can rebuild the infrastructure to be climate smart with climate smart planning. We can enhance our emergency preparedness to cope with the rising seas. Communities can also restore and conserve natural coastal habitats to help manage sea level rises. I think we're also seeing that in Oceanside here, with local homeowners taking things in their own hands, putting huge boulders in front of their beachfront homes. I know that is a little controversial because that wasn't even approved by the city when that happened a couple years ago. And then a big one is governments can act to cut emissions, adapt infrastructure and services to prepare for changing coastal landscapes, and support community-based responses. I think something that we see right now is whenever there is a natural disaster in the United States, we are just not prepared. We have FEMA, we have the Red Cross, but we're seeing catastrophes at such levels that we have just never been prepared for this. and our government isn't doing anything about it to put the foot forward to potentially be able to mitigate the issues that we have. There's multiple strategies that we can take to reduce the impact of sea level rise. One of those would be consider if your home or business is vulnerable to flooding. If it is vulnerable to flooding, there are some homes that are even on the North Shores of North Carolina that are raising their homes, also in Florida as well. You can do sandbags to prevent flooding from entering your home. How can we prepare and how can we respond? I think response has a little bit more to do with our government. I think as much as we can prepare as much as we can, but at the end of the day, we are going to get attacked by the sea levels that continue to rise. And we're going to see this more when we see hurricanes. And I wouldn't even say it's the actual hurricane storm itself. It's the storm surge that comes after the hurricane. And we notice that our beaches are deteriorating. For example, in the North Shores, the storm surge has gotten so bad that it actually takes down these homes that have been there for over 50, 60 years. Just to give you a little example on what our sea levels are currently doing, in the year 2000, so right here it shows the height above 2,000 levels in feet. So example would be at 0 feet. Since then, in 2020, it did increase 1 foot. They project by 2040 that it's going to increase 1 foot 6 inches. They also project that by 2060 that we're going to be 3 feet 3 inches in sea level rise. By 2080, 5 feet. And then by 2100, they think it's going to increase 6 foot 6 inches. Now, I know that may not necessarily sound like a lot to a lot of people, but at the end of the day, that is taking away our beaches that we love. It's taking away homes. People have homes on the beaches. And with this, those storm surges are going to continue to get more strong. It's going to impact more people on the coast. And we're going to have more storms because of how warm that ocean is. So they are rising because of the sea levels are rising because of the acidification of the ocean. The only way that we can really slow this down is by reducing our carbon footprint. And I think that's about as much information I can give on that. Today, we did talk about how, one second. Well, let me go back. But today we did talk about how sea levels rise. We talked about how the rise is connected to climate change. And we also talked about how sea level rise is one of the most visible indicators to a warming planet. Right here are my sources. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope you have a great day.